Real Estate Radio Boston is a paid program sponsored by Guaranteed Rate Incorporated, which is solely responsible for its content. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ID 2611, Equal Housing Lender. Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License MC 2611. Rick Shearer, NMLS ID 454910. Visit nmlsconsumeraccess.org. All applications subject to credit approval. Call Guaranteed Rates Boston office at 617-778-0024 for additional cost information.
Real Estate Radio Boston with loan officer Rick Shearer of Guaranteed Rate and legal professional Ali Alavi of Alavi Braza PC. This is Real Estate Radio Boston.
You know, over the weekend, I was having a conversation with my brother about autonomous driving and how technology is advancing and all this other things. And one of the things that he mentioned, especially, I mean, for those listeners that may not be aware of this, essentially the internet being shut down. And really the reason behind the internet being shut down is the fact that they were using these smart home technologies against the internet to be able to shut it down. That is a risk out there. How have you guys addressed that particular risk? Can it be addressed? The more you add these smart technologies to homes, the more it appears that homes are communicating with one another, not just people, but they're with one another. So, so how do you prevent that security?
No, you're absolutely right. And actually, when I was having trouble getting on the internet on Friday and I was thinking about this interview coming up, I was thinking, they're going to ask me about that. But actually, we get asked about that all the time. And people have been warning about the issue with these Internet of Things devices and smart home devices being a potential, attack vector or attack threat. And part of the problem is, unlike your PC, where you would normally do virus updates, things like that,
right?
An Internet of Things device, a thermostat, whatever it is you put on the wall, you just buy it and you put it on the wall and you're all done. So if it's got a security flaw in it, it's there, sitting there. A lot of people have been warning about this. There's some very, very basic technology that was and practices that were missing from those devices that were the vector from which those attacks came. So those were very, very simple attacks that are very, very easy to prevent. And that's true for our technology. We work very hard on that. It's one of the things we're very, very cognizant of. And we have a lot of background in our company from networking and security, so we have a good handle on this. So I think it's something that is pretty easy to fix. It just requires everybody in the industry to do a good job, because if there's a few thousand or a few 100,000 rogue devices out there, the bad guys are going to find them. So we're making sure we're not part of that, and I know a lot of vendors are doing that.
That's absolutely a great point, and I'm so happy to hear that the company has made that a priority.
Now, so let's talk a little bit about, so you get people driving the cars, they're in a rental, and they're like, this sounds phenomenal. Like, I want my apartment, I want my landlord to look in, smarten up my home a little bit. A couple of things that you talked about was saving money. Potentially saving some money. For landlords, how can putting your product in their units save people money?
Sure. So in a lot of cases, the renter is paying for the utilities. And you may be 20-25% of the market that's not true. The owner is paying for the gas and the electric. And in that case, we can save the owner a lot of money on that right there.
Sure.
In the broad
and that's just controlling the temperatures and using the thermostat and things like that.
That's right. So controlling the temperature, automatically turning it down when somebody's out of the house, air conditioning, heating, that kind of stuff. But right across the whole market, every landlord, even if they're not paying for the utilities, they're paying for the walls and the floors and the stuff that's going to get damaged if, there's frozen pipes or there's a water leak from the hot water cylinder, or any other kind of problem that happens in the apartment. And of course, in a large apartment building, you're going to affect a lot of people, not just the one apartment where that happened. So I like to say, okay, the renter might be paying for the utilities, but the landlord's paying for the building. It's their asset,
right?
And it just makes a lot of sense to put some smart technology in there and use it to protect that asset.
Getting back to the overall theme of this show, which is at its core the technology. But going back to also the trends that we're talking about, the national trends that we're seeing, based on your experience, and that's really a good perspective to have because of that 50-50 practice that you have. Are you seeing a lot of millennials express interest in the dream of home ownership?
We are, yes.
Yeah, so what you're experiencing on the front lines corroborates the statistics that we've shared with the listeners
Yes.
today.
Yep.
Interesting.
And what do you say? What are you contributing to the slowdown of activity? Is it are there just not enough buyers out there? Is there too much inventory so people have more to choose from? Is it the type of inventory that I've heard some agents say the type of inventory out there is a little less desirable? I don't even know what that means. But what are you seeing?
Frankly, I think it's a matter of just seasonal. We are right now, we're 3 weeks away from the holiday market.
Right.
Traditionally it's a time where, a lot of people start to put their searches and decide to, wait till the spring. Frankly, there's pros and cons to that, but I think a lot of that is seasonal. I mean, we've seen a similar market last year, and look at this, the spring market that we had,
Right.
just this year.
So it's not an anomaly.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of people get so used to this spring market and this fall market and think that's when they need to put their house on the market. So I disagree with that, because I think, why put your house on the market when everybody else is putting their house on the market? I do feel there's a lot of home buyers out there waiting for the right home. So if you're the right home, maybe it's good to showcase your house if you're big into Christmas decorations and just a feel good type of home. And so do you agree that maybe putting it on in November, December, when people aren't, their competition isn't out, is a good time to do it?
Well, that's definitely a pro of listing now versus waiting.
Right.
We get that question a lot. What is a good time to list? Frankly, most people are moving during life-changing events. People are getting married, having kids. Unfortunately, people get divorced. So usually our suggestion is you really have to just move. I mean, moving itself is a stressful process,
Right.
as it is. You really just need to move when things just make sense for you. And then also, once you do move, what does the picture look on the other side? For example, where are you moving to, and how does that fit into the equation? When you're talking seasonally, in the spring, the benefit is that, sure, there are more buyers that are looking. Unfortunately, there's a lot more competition that's out there. In the winter and the fall, there are less buyers out there. However, generally they are more motivated, and you're going to have a lot less listing competition out there as well too.
On Call essentially bridges the smart technology we were talking to Robert Cooper about, and it taps into what they implement in order to do what? What does it do?
It enables almost any Internet of Things device to work for the benefit of grandma. We have a saying that the Internet of Things is wasted on the young. Because if you take any Internet of Things sensor, so anything from a thermostat to a blood glucose meter to something that measures a propane level of a tank in propane for external people that live in rural areas.
Sure.
The value of that data is pretty valuable. But you apply that same data to an elderly person living alone, the value of that data exhaust goes up exponentially.
I hear grandmother, I hear grandfather, I hear assisted living. These individuals, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, are they technology savvy? Is this something that they would easily be accepting of?
No, I mean, then that's the dichotomy you have to deal with, right? It's that you have this great technology that we can't even predict what it's going to be.
For a good value, but that's
that can help them. But older people in general don't like to adopt new technology.
Right.
So we do hear about mom and grandma using a smartphone and that sort of thing. But the reality is, as people get older, I mean, you guys are on the edge of the millennials, but myself, I'm 54. And I know myself that I used to really play with a lot of new technology when I was younger. And as I get older, my teenage daughter comes to me and says, "Hey, Dad, you got to have this latest app on your phone." And I go, No, I don't. No, I don't.
No.
I don't need it.
I don't.
I'm fine, right? I got other things to do. So older people, they tend to not want to adopt new technology. So how do you get that new technology into the home?
Yeah, how?
And so part of that is you've got to make it completely unobtrusive. And you've got to make it so that they don't feel like, hey, you know what? You're monitoring me.
Gotcha.
And you can't make it feel like, hey, this is made because you're old. And that's a key aspect. There are so many products out there today that basically say, hey, here's something that's made for the elderly, so you can keep tabs on mom in the house. And almost by definition, those products are dirt ugly, right? They went out of their way to make the product ugly,
Right.
and it ends up being unplugged and under the bed because mom just doesn't like it.
Right.
It's ugly, or it says I'm old, I'm frail, I'm sick, which is not what it identifies with.